Allegiance to the flag, so please rise. There's your flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we have three projects on the schedule tonight, plus one that was a latecomer, and then we have some old business that we're going to talk about as to whether the HARB is going to send a member to the Design Review Board to look at a commercial project that is in our district. That'll be the last thing on the agenda, and then there'll be public comment, which will be for any issues on the table or anything that you have on your mind about HARB-related issues. Once again, if you're here tonight, you're in one of the three HARB districts, which is South Wayne, North Wayne, or Louella Court. The project that would bring you here would be an addition that increases footprint, height or area, or it has some kind of scale difference or change to your building. And that triggers our review. Our review, as a review board, we're an advisory board to the Board of Commissioners. So whatever we decide tonight will go to the commissioners, and they will review it in their meeting. I'm not sure when their next meeting is, Ray, but it's probably next week or something. He's not listening. But anyhow, so that'll be, that's when you actually would get your official notification of approval. They can approve, disapprove, or approve or disapprove with conditions. That's how it goes. All right, so the first project tonight is HARB 2013-23. It's 138 Runnymede Avenue, renovation on existing foundation or footprint. And please come forward, introduce yourself. You always have to use a microphone if you're going to speak. We have handhelds if that helps.
Okay.
And your projects go on the table and just kind of orient them the way somebody can see it. And walk us through what you're proposing.
Okay.
So just introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, my name is Rose Efferino. I'm with Rockwell Custom Homes, and this is Luke Atanisi, also with Rockwell Custom Homes. We're here representing the owner of 138 Runnymede Ave. What we're proposing to do is taking the house that's existing right now, that is, I don't know if there's a way to blow this up. We're not increasing the footprint of the home at all. We're actually taking what's existing and building upwards. The house on 138 Runnymede right now is a little run down. It's not kind of reflective of the community around it. So we are sort of taking it to the foundation and then adding an additional level as well to the house.
So the site plan that you provided shows a footprint, and that footprint is existing and new. I mean, it's the same.
It's the same.
There's no increase in footprint. Okay.
Correct.
You're only going to a second level, which is half a house.
Yeah, it's
half a level.
1.5 right now.
Okay. Okay. Then I don't know who's in the back, Jim. If he can zoom in, maybe on, just point to the existing one and maybe move that into the center.
Yep.
And maybe we can show everybody how that works.
So the ones on the left, this is the existing front facade. Right
Do you
here.
want
Here, you want to use this?
Sure.
It might be easier. There you go. I think it's on.
So the photo on the left is the existing front facade. You can kind of see as it stands now, it's a little beat up. We're proposing to take it down to the foundation, put a new front porch on. The proposed elevation is on the right-hand side of that picture. And below it is another front view, just from a different angle.
Can you describe the materials that you're planning to use for?
We're going to be using fiber cement. It's a mix of fiber cement and stucco material, mainly maintenance-free. Exposed rafter tails on the new addition, or the new roof here that comes down.
Just on the lower roof?
Yes, just on the lower roof.
Is the second level shingle, or is that a siding as well?
That is siding as well.
So you just change the scale of the siding?
Yeah, looks like maybe a 5-inch and then a 7-inch on top.
Is the orientation of the home turning a little? or
No, the
It's
front
not.
door is staying in the same location. There's a garage, the driveway's kind of right on the property line, and the garage in the back is a one-car garage, and that's going to stay where it is too.
Do you know anything about the house, the old house? Do you have any information historically? It's not in our
Yeah.
No, we don't have
We
anything.
don't have anything.
It almost-
inventory list. It doesn't show up on anything, so.
It almost looks like the middle core of that almost looks like a carriage house, a small carriage house, because you can tell by the windows that are facing Conestoga Road, I don't know what thing that is. There's like these little windows that you normally see by the horse stalls. So, I mean, I don't know, it just kind of looked like that, and a bunch of additions.
Yeah,
and
it looks like
changes
it's
to the
changed
outside,
over
yeah.
time,
Yeah.
you know.
Have you all opened up the big front columns? Of the front porch, the existing front porch?
We haven't done any work on it yet.
So it's unknown what's in there.
Right.
Okay.
So you don't know the age of the building? The existing building?
We don't know.
Do you have I should be looking through my packet, but I'm getting a little confused, but do you have any, or maybe the site drawing shows how close it is along the street to other homes? Do I just missing that piece?
Yeah, it's a site plan here.
We have
Oh,
the-
okay,
Here's the
got
site
it.
plan
Oh,
here.
got it.
Yeah.
It's kind of a pie-shaped lot, gets a little
I
bit
see.
tighter in the rear. Small backyard, bigger front yard.
And you have a couple of sheets that have adjacent properties that can show kind of its context.
Yeah, the 136 is the one that shares the driveway, where the driveways join each other. That's these photos here.
That one recently was renovated
Yeah.
not too long ago, right?
Mhm.
We actually did the renovation at 134 about a year ago. It's not in the packet, but I brought a picture. It was a
Is
new
it next to the
front
yellow
porch.
house?
It was next to on the other side of the yellow house.
Yeah.
This picture right
Yeah.
there.
I think that's one of the houses that we saved,
Yeah.
Mhm.
or helped save, or whatever.
Mhm.
That was probably one of our first projects that we reviewed here.
Okay.
They were scheduled to do total demolition, so
Oh, really?
I'm glad you guys got a
Did
hold of
something?
it. All right, then across the street, you have some 2.5, 3-story kind of properties, right?
Yeah.
With clapboard and some shingle work.
The house on the left on that photo is sort of right at that intersection where Bloomingdale and Runnymede meet.
What's next to you on towards Conestoga?
This
Is that one, do
It's-
you have a
those
picture of
There's like
anything?
there are apartments.
Their
It's,
apartments.
oh, in Conestoga? You
Yeah.
got an apartment building.
Yeah, it's a small
So it
apartment
is-
building.
Yeah. a large
It's not a
apartment
house that
building.
was transferred or translated?
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
believe so.
Right. That lot next to it is like or maybe not, at least towards the corner, there's a big apartment building.
Yeah, the one right next to it's sort of like garden-style apartments, nothing too tall. Probably
forget what's
no more
there.
than maybe 10, I think, are over there.
Well, from these photographs and from knowing that area, it looks like, most of your neighbors are taller structures. And what you've done is sort of maintain sort of a smaller massing, which kind of relates to what's there, even though what's there is tiny. but you're not, attempting to be as large as the other ones or larger. So you're kind of in keeping with the massing you're adjacent to and also what was there. And I would love to, if you can dig into anything about what was there or when you start taking this apart, and we have no kind of jurisdiction over things once we give an approval and you start, there's nothing we can do if you find something and it's really cool, other than you say, we found something cool, can you come look at it?
Yeah.
And then, it's voluntary at that point. But that's something we would love to see happen.
Sure.
Okay.
And it can be the first day or the last day, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But that's, because some of these things have, it's got texture on a lever on it, which is kind of like the easy fix. There might be German shiplap, something underneath, it might be something really cool,
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
from a standpoint of what we're here tonight for, I think, you're reusing the footprint, which, we realize and we understand that that's an important part of the, the growth pattern of this area. And you're also not increasing the height in the area up, visually from the second floor level drastically. You're staying smaller than your neighbors. So the materials are similar to the things in the neighborhood. Things that are lower to where the person is kind of more able to see things, like the rafter tails on the lower first level where you're showing them. Those are good details to try to replicate.
I think
I have a question. Does the concept of contributing and non-contributing, does that apply to the South Wayne District?
Yeah.
Especially in this area where there's no really common theme every house is different, really.
They're different, but they relate to that period and style grouping, so I think,
Yeah, just from looking at the pictures, it's hard to imagine this is contributing.
I think you're right, but I think what I'm seeing, I think what Cam's saying too, is that it's creating a new home, but based on many similar patterns you see around you, which makes sense. Like the roof lines I liked, and the porch angle, so I think you're doing a nice job in the character you see you're pulling into this building.
Right.
I think it does a really nice job of melding a lot of elements that you see in small cottages of that era. And you don't go overboard in any place, so it's a nice, things are really complementary and of the right scale, and especially if it's a scale for your lot, like Cam was talking about earlier.
Now, just from a kind of administrative thing, the plan doesn't show a couple of windows on it that are on the elevations, but the elevations rule, right?
Yes.
Okay. I think on the front elevation, there's a stair window and a bathroom window maybe that don't show up on the plan. No. Don't show
don't show
the
that?
floor plans, but I'm just saying the elevations are what we're kind of really all about,
Right.
The interior work is all yours. But I just wanted to make sure that there was, when Ray has to go inspect the job, if there's a window missing, but we saw it in an elevation, then there's a problem.
Sure.
So the elevations rule.
Okay.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody?
I think it's a nice project. Really, in terms of the scale, what everyone else has said, the scale, and even the proportions within the building are really nice, and the proportions to the rest of the neighborhood seem nice too. So, they seem to fit in. So I think it's a really nice project.
Great.
So, yeah.
All right, want to make a motion?
Motion to recommend approval of a COA.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Okay, we've done our part. As I said, Board of Commissioners will do their part. That is on the website of, Radnor Township. I'm not sure what that date is. But you'll get a formal letter from them, which would then send you'll be able to apply for permits at that point, or whatever else you have to do.
Great.
All right, thank you very much. It's going to be a good one. Thanks. All right. Push this out of the way. One second. Okay, next on the agenda is HARB 2013-24, 213 Orchard Way. Rear covered patio over existing flagstone, details of cornice to match sunroom.
You were here before.
I've been here twice for this project.
Okay.
We originally.
You look
had done-
familiar.
We had originally done this project in the front elevation, the original brick facade. We then done it with siding. We came back for revision and changed it over to brick to match the existing, which was approved a couple of months ago. That change there, as well as the sunroom that was built as well. Those two were approved a couple of months ago. The client has now decided to put a covered, partly covered patio over the existing flagstone patio in the back. The existing flagstone patio, we're not adding any new impervious. So we are using the same detailing that was approved on the sunroom as far as the cornice work. For the new rear covered patio, there is no way to see it from the street, the way it's located. But we had to go back for HARB and get the approval.
I think it might be helpful for you to show the, kind of the photograph that shows you up to date, the construction up to date, this one?
I did not bring.
You wanna bring- you wanna-
Can I
here.
use your copy?
Yeah. And then you can kind of outline that.
You know, I have the drawings from the last time you applied.
Yeah.
And it'd be helpful if you show us on these what you're changing or adding
Certainly.
after you go through
Certainly.
whatever you have.
As you can see here, the photograph of the back, as was in the drawing from last time, there's a single door with a double window. What we're doing is replacing that single door with a pair of French doors off the back, and then adding the covered porch that you see here over the existing flagstone. So that's the only new addition to what was from the old drawings,
Okay.
is the new double door and then the rear covered porch. Again, we went with the same cornice detail. Again, I had presented this picture last time that we were here, with the cornice detailing, the crown, and we are using the exact same cornice detail in the new structure.
Okay.
Gonna add any stone or anything else while you're at it?
I think this is the last time I'll come and see you for this, if that's okay.
That's fine with me. It's up to you, though. Whatever you want to do.
You've actually reduced our deficit by 0.25% with your applications, you know.
So like I said, you know, as far as I know, now that we're in construction, from that picture, everything else is done for this point. Now the sunroom, everything that was approved, and the last covered patio would be the last thing that we add to this. And again, it's on the back, and it's not visible from the street.
All right, I guess.
The date of this house was later than, I mean, you know, more recent than most homes.
It is a little
And
more
that-
recent.
That's what
It is a little more recent. I don't know the exact date.
This one is in the inventory, but it doesn't have any date on it.
right.
It's considered non-contributing, which, you know, I mean, it's not that it's a bad house, it's just not part of the historic, the general historic fabric.
Correct. And when we started, this was a very contemporary with clear stories that we've taken off and made it much more, you know, closer to the original architecture of
I
the
remember
main
that.
body of the house.
Actually, I think you have on the back side of that photograph, you have a before, I believe. Is that the one that I gave you?
Yes, this was the back of the house before we started. If we can zoom in on that. That was the more contemporary clear stories on the back. That's the part that we have removed, made it much more of the brick veneer to match the back. And then on the back, we've matched the siding, or we went to siding. And that's currently as it is today.
All right, I don't have any other questions. You good? All right, make a motion.
Motion to recommend approval of a COA?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. See you next time. Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda is HARB 2013-25, 401 Oak Lane. Attached garage addition, including new bedroom, baths, kitchen renovation, and the removal of an existing garage. Introduce yourself, and if you want to grab one of these two, that might be helpful if both of you are going to participate.
Great,
There you go.
thanks.
And you've kind of seen how this works. It's all table-oriented
Lots of-
for plans or
Yes.
drawings or whatever you want.
Great, thanks. So I'm Brett and Lori Thibodeau. We're the owners of 401 Oak Lane in North Wayne. And so we have, I guess we'll start with the elevations, or should we show you the site plan, or what's?
Site plan would be helpful.
Great.
I don't think I had one in my packet, but what we
There should
don't
have.
need are the interior plans.
Great,
So just the elevations and a site plan would be,
sure.
or any photographs.
There should have been copies, hopefully, of this. We submitted, yeah, let me get this, maybe turn this way for you. This makes sense.
Did anybody else have a site plan?
Huh,
If you have one, that's great, because then we can, it's, that, you know.
I do.
You've got it right there.
I do. I can kind of talk you through it, if that makes sense. Sorry, I'm confident we submitted, but I'll walk you through what we've got here.
Yeah, I still don't have that. Yeah, okay, just walk us through, particularly what's existing, what's proposed. I think we can kind of tell what's going on, but if you can walk us through that, that'd be great.
Sure, great, thanks. So, just for coordination, Oak Lane, Beech Tree Lane, we're a corner lot, and so the existing dwelling is here. There is an existing garage and driveway over here, which are to be demolished. Then we are proposing this addition, a garage addition and second-story addition over this currently existing portion of the home.
Which is also an addition.
You're right. So just, and for context, historical context, this is the original portion of the home. This is an addition that was put on, to the best of our knowledge, in the mid-'80s. And this is a garage that has a small Sears and Roebuck 1929 plaque and is well past its useful life. I think we have some pictures to show you. So it is sagging, leaning, and propped. So that's what we have.
Well, this is one of the, how long have you lived there?
So we got it in
About
07.
7 years, about 6.5 years.
6 years, yeah.
This is one of the original Wayne houses. It was called the Medium House, and that was what they called it in the brochure. And they described it, that it had all these great things. But it was a Wendell and Smith, and it has all of the details that you're accustomed to in North and South Wayne. With siding and shingling and half timbering and all those
Right.
wonderful things. It looks to me, just from that rear elevation, there was a 2-story addition and a 1-story addition that's kind of in the white clapboard in the pictures I think you sent up. If you look in the rear,
The rear elevation.
yeah, there's one, the one that it does say rear elevation. Everything that's in white,
Oh, right. Yeah, that's
Um,
fair. This entire back piece, I guess, would have been. I see
and
what you're saying.
typically,
Right.
this house would have probably had a 1-story rear addition on the main square that was all utility functions, it was kitchen and all the other stuff. So at some point, they did that. So your
That makes
piece,
sense. So they went above the kitchen. That makes sense.
your piece is going really no further towards the end of the house than this. You're basically taking that apart while adding to it in height, actually, and footprint towards the front of the house. You've got one of those properties as a corner property, so you have two front yards, sort of?
Right.
Okay. All right, if you can, maybe you can show us a picture of the front, go through the pictures on there, too. See, we have all this stuff, but we have to show it
Sure.
on camera,
Fair
so.
enough. You want the actual photographic?
Yeah, the photographs would be great.
Sure. So, this would be the front of the house as it exists now. And interestingly, you mentioned the historical. Just to add, we went to the Radnor Historical Society, and we actually have one of the old pictures, and we saw that, and actually have another one looking up Oak Lane towards it. So it's sort of
Nice.
it's great. It's great to see. It's from like 1893.
They're a wonderful resource if you ever want to find out anything.
Yeah, fantastic.
And particularly this area, they've got some really great photographs.
Yeah.
And there's no trees, and it's just houses.
No trees, and they had the old
And the wooden
log.
sidewalks.
Yeah.
It was really
Yeah.
cool.
And the
That's funny.
log fences, crossed log fences is great. It's fun. So, but this is the existing front. Should I go right over top here? Keep going?
Yeah, that's great.
So this is kind of moving around to the right side elevation. This is from the intersection of Oak and Beech Tree. This would be the kind of moving over to the side, looking from Beech Tree at the garage, the sag, and it doesn't close anymore. And this is the sort of back, the structural issues that have occurred with the garage over time.
Didn't this used to have sliding doors instead of overhead doors, or was that before your time?
Before
That was
our time.
before our time, it may have.
Okay.
But I don't think so. I think this was a catalog, so Sears Catalog used to sell garages, and I think this
Yeah.
was,
Okay,
there are actually a couple other ones still standing.
maybe I'm
in the
thinking of
neighborhood.
another one.
And then this is the rear elevation that you mentioned, looking towards
Right.
the back of the house.
Okay, also accompanying that, you have some photographs of neighbors,
Context.
neighboring context houses.
Our context houses, sure. So this is standing in the front of our house, looking sort of to the left of the front elevation, which is a 405 Oak. That's the Stewards. This is from the front porch, looking across the street, which is 400 Oak Lane, which is the Walkers. This is the side of the Walkers. She's built back and out. This is looking across the street from the front porch at 311 Oak, which is the Bunos. And then this is looking directly across the street from the garage as it exists now, which is the O'Neills.
So if you're looking at the front of your house, looking at the front porch, there's really nothing happening on that side. The front porch isn't being affected at all.
No.
Not at all.
Right. Nothing until that, I guess, where the addition is, what we consider the addition, that small portion. Right.
Is there a tree in front of the addition? It looks in the photograph like there's a huge tree that's kind of blocking the addition.
Yes.
So, and will that stay, or is that coming down?
That will likely come down.
All right. I guess if you could walk us through the drawing elevations, that'd be great.
Sure.
Thank you.
So keep it to 4. So let's see. So this, if we focus on this, this is the new front elevation. And so this is looking at it from the front porch view, looking back. And what you'll see are the...
Can you put this picture right next to it?
Yep.
That'd be great. Thank you. Perfect. Perfect.
How's that?
Yep.
That's that picture. So that's, so you see the porch, and then the addition comes out behind that existing second story. And adding, following the siding and on the lower level and the upper level, and then the same, trying to follow the same peak that exists on the front porch peak. With a, I guess, a couple of details there that we're trying to pull from the existing original on the sides. And what else can I point out?
I guess just move around. You've got a rear elevation and a
Yep.
front elevation.
So rear elevation, so as we move around to the rear elevation, which would be sort of, I guess, kind of from this side. It's sort of looking here.
Yeah.
Is this,
You might want to move that over just a teeny bit. Sorry. That's it. Perfect. Thank you.
if I do this, how about that? I'll get everything on one page.
Yeah.
So looking this way is this one. And it's, you can see that the second story has come up, and then the garage portion comes out. And again, trying to follow the lines, needed a detailed return, and adding a number of windows and some, and an entrance in the back from the pool. This is the pool area here.
Okay. And just
So,
move around to
then,
the side. That'd be good.
Yep, so we've got, then this is the right elevation, which is this. So this is looking at it again from the corner of Oak and Beech Tree. This is the right elevation, so this is looking directly at the new garage addition. Bringing the, want to bring the siding over consistent, and then the shake across. Again, trying to follow the peaks and adding a door and 2 garage bays. So,
Just gonna say, we're trying to carry through as many of the design elements as we can, so we're incorporating the windows that are existing on the original front of the house will also be over the garage doors facing, so that it's sort of one consistent, unified appearance.
oh, right. Yeah. And then the left elevation is the sort of this rear facing looking, if you're looking from here over. And adding, again, new windows in the back and French doors out to the backyard patio area.
On the new right elevation, is on the top, is that a dormer coming out there, or is it on the same plane as the front?
Yeah, so it's the same as the same plane as the roof. It's a, you can see it more easily, I think, on, if you look at the front elevation, if you look at the front elevation or the rear elevation on the prior, so this is what you see coming out from the street, this
Yeah.
portion.
Oh, it's- okay.
And then this is sort of that's the, I guess effectively dormer, but it's pulling that front out.
It looks like what is nice is that this two-story addition is lower than a 2.5-story core of the home. So you're keeping it as nice and not large, but it's a lot of space, but it's secondary still to the core. So it's
Right.
using all the nice details, but it's still keeping it a little
Right.
less
Yeah.
than primary.
Yeah, the roof line stays.
Right, which
stays
keeps
lower.
that
Right.
order.
Right.
Nice.
I see what you mean. There are two shed dormers on either
Right,
side.
that's what
and
I
then
was
there's a-
wondering.
There's a gable
Right.
roof within the shed dormer, like on top of the shed dormer, on the two side
So
elevations.
there's a gable roof, and then those are shed dormers behind it, or not?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Well, let me see what you're pointing.
See, right here, you have the dormer,
Yeah, these are the sheds.
and these are the sheds. But how far back do they go from the
There.
dormer?
And the next one. Let's start with that tower. They go almost to the right, like this
Oh, I
extends
see,
in,
okay,
and then they put this,
right,
but like that
Yeah.
face goes straight up.
right, okay.
I think it's all in the same plan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a dormer, but all of the other, that little gable is all in the same plan.
that's what my question is, yeah.
I think that's all we have for pictures.
The piece that comes straight off the back is
Yeah, it's-
virtually the same footprint as if you were to take the first white clapboard addition and just keep coming with it.
Yes.
Okay. So that sort of maintains the same footprint, but increases the furthest piece back to second story.
Right.
So that piece comes all the way. Then there's a cross gable. Did you ever look at this without doing the gables on the sheds?
Yes.
So my goal was to really make the front of the house look as original and have the detail be as true as possible. And so at first, we did have the initial house and then one large dormer on the addition, but to me, it didn't feel like it was truly in keeping with the character of the home. It didn't match the angles of the original home, and it looked more, in my opinion, like an addition. So the goal here was to really make this look, particularly from the front, as if it was all original, as to whatever extent we could. And that's why we did some definite extra monkeying with the designs, sort of with the intention of making it look as cohesive and original as possible. Right now, it really looks like this really neat old house with like a rectangular box sticking out of the back, and then the dilapidated rectangular garage right behind it. And so we're hoping this really unifies the building, and that's why we took sort of those extra steps.
Yes.
You concur?
We did look at it. Yes. We did a lot of looking.
Do you mind
and
going
trying
to the Beach Lane elevation again, where you're looking at the garage coming straight in?
Sure.
Okay. So it looks like you're going with a carriage-style door, two overheads,
Yes.
and there's that gable, I believe, overhangs a little bit,
I see what you're saying.
I think, yeah. No,
What you might think of.
Right here?
That's,
that would be, no, that's the porch behind it. Above the garage doors, you have a gable,
right.
and it has a little bit of some bracketing underneath it, so it's sitting further out a little bit than the garage door plane. You follow me?
Yeah, you can see it right here.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, here.
Is that what you're
So, yeah, so the face of the building is in line, but you've got an overhang that's that's deeper, which is in keeping with what the main house has. So that's what I was after. I'm sorry. I didn't articulate that very well. But, one of the things we're trying to, and also the gables that are on the end of the two-story addition that come straight back, and then the gables that come off of the shed dormers, would they have similar overhangs that were, more than just a tiny bit? I mean,
Yeah.
it would be in keeping with some of the other overhangs on the building?
Yes.
That's our goal, yes.
Okay.
I think it shows a little bit of that return, but yeah, that's the goal.
Just going to say that I really appreciate looking at the front facade, the flare of the second story, that's just that
Yeah,
little, which
brought-
really hits
Brought
you.
it out the same way that it
Yes,
does
and
on
you've
the
done that,
second.
and also the stick-style board within the shingles, it just keeps that style alive. I like that. It really helps.
Yeah, that little extra monkeying around. I mean, after you guys, I was erasing that little extra monkeying around. And you're right, it looks too much like one big addition somebody put on.
Now it ties in more with looking at the front porch. It's kind of the same.
Right, that was our
Effect.
goal. It looked like a wing coming at you from the front when you looked at it before, as
Mhm.
opposed to more integrated.
I think a nice little detail or little design, when you look at the rear elevation of the new construction, you have shutters on the windows of the piece that was built upon the existing foundation. But the new piece, but the piece added on, which is the garage, you didn't, and it works. It'd be too much if you had shutters over there, I think. Just the shutters on that second floor of that center piece works really fine, and it really meshes with the existing windows of the original house from that end. More shutters on that other side would be overkill,
It would be, yeah, looked like a lot.
unless you had a shutter franchise and that,
Any questions?
Yeah, Cam?
The only thing I'm struggling with is it's kind of big. I mean, it's, and big coming towards Beach Street. And I think as you look at the long elevation, I'm not, you've got a long elevation now, but it's low and it's kind of not in keeping with anything, really. So I like the fact that you're coming up and trying to maintain everything. Then you take this piece and go forward towards Beach, but it's the same scale. It's this big, it's a big thing. So I'm struggling a little bit with that.
I know where you're coming from that. When I first looked at this, I saw the front elevation with that addition to the side, and I said, my God, it's huge. Until you actually go out to the property, actually stand at the property and look where all the construction is going. And it's really kind of more of an optical illusion more than anything else. The things fall more into scale. Especially when you get rid of that other garage and you do a little landscaping, you're going to have a really nice. That was the biggest issue that I had, was that scale of that, when you look at it from the front.
Right. But
you
it
know.
is a pretty big site,
Yeah.
parcel, so it feels it can accommodate.
And to that point, we're reducing impervious by, I think, a little over 2% of the total footprint by getting rid of the garage and that back
Building
driveway.
area and our impervious are both going down.
Right.
So what's your rate now?
So we're at,
No, I'm just kidding.
gone through that plenty.
No.
I'll tell you, we were at,
Whatever you're going to be paying for,
oh, yeah,
your fee.
1990.
Well, that's my only comment. I'd like everything you're doing in terms of matching and trying to maintain and, certainly the addition that's there benefits from this, tremendously. On the outside and on the inside, you're getting tremendous use out of that space. I guess I can see, a corner property we have in the past, in the developmental patterns in Wayne, the corner properties tend to be a little different. This is a medium house, but it's really big in some people's eyes, it's not that little house. As you go inward, you get into the gabled ends, which are the smaller, some of the pillared houses which are on your street further down. Those are bigger. This one can afford, I think, to be bigger. We've done this in the past where we've had corner properties and we treat them a little differently because of that. So I think when you look at how we've done things in the past and the efforts you're putting forth, and the developmental things that are going on, your neighbors across the street are every bit as big as this. You have, the real developmental pattern has a detached garage, which nobody wants anymore. So for you to say, well, I'm going to rebuild this and walk 50 yards to, that doesn't fit today's lifestyle model. So I don't think that's something enforceable at all. So I guess I'm warming up to this size of this a little bit, but it took me a little bit. When you look at flat elevations, it is a real optical illusion. You never see that. It's never like that. So, and you do have, it's a story and a half mass that has dormers. So you do have some things that are kicking in and out, and it's not just this one big piece. So I think that softens it a bit. So I think probably I could do this, I think.
Yeah, the other thing too is that I don't think that, I don't think that we should keep a house stuck in its particular developmental, what it was, because the lifestyle is changing so much today from what it was. And so if you're able to incorporate something like this onto the main house and you're on a big lot, big corner lot, I think it's good because things change over time. And I think that what you're doing is a nice addition to, today's lifestyle.
Thank you.
And this is not in our venue, have you talked to anybody about garage entry being that close to a corner?
About the garage entry
Like
being...
Talk to anybody, meaning,
Like the township or,
we went through the zoning hearing board. to
and they were,
get
and
the
they were fine with that?
variance.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they approved us.
All right, that's,
Yeah, we had to get, because of that front yard,
you have two setbacks.
two
so-
setbacks.
two
Yeah.
setbacks, so we had to get the relief for that side
Okay.
setback.
And I think zoning looks at, they would look at that distance too as well. Okay, well, that's not part of our problem. So-
Nope.
All right,
But I just want to make one comment. It's what Andrea started talking about. There's an evolving nature of historic preservation, and I think it's good where I think it's going, where you have to take in today's world, and people have to live in these houses. It's one thing restoring Independence Hall or some, but these are real houses that people live in, and just like they did in the past, they would change from Victorian to Georgian to whatever was in style at the time. So I think it's an important point to really bring out to people in general.
Well, I also think that if we didn't allow, or we didn't, like that kind of thing or allow it, that it would really impede people from preserving houses and buying these houses and fixing them up. So I think as long as it's done well and within the right scale and so forth, and, then it's
I
great.
think you're right.
the other thing that is good, that I think is a positive here as well, I'm not being negative, I'm talking about it, but as much as you try to make this mesh with the old, it's still very clear what's old and it's not that that's an addition. It's just that I like to be able to, when I look at a historic building, I like to say, well, that was the original piece. And this was done, and it all works together. But I like to be able to see that thing as its own. And you didn't engulf that, and you didn't chew it up, and you didn't put a roof that was huge and all this other stuff. So you maintained that, and I think that's really important. in the overall scheme of things. When you're getting to the scale of an addition,
Very important.
you know, you're keeping some horizontal lines and all those things are working, and materials and so forth, but clearly I can see, oh, that's the medium house, and it's been updated. So I think that's important.
Mhm.
All right, I'm not going to say anymore.
Okay.
You all right?
No, make a motion?
Okay. make a-
Motion to approve recommendation, to recommend approval of a COA.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Sorry it took so long for that discussion, but
Thank you very much. We appreciate
Great
it.
project. Laurie, Brett, great work.
yeah.
We have to be verbose in at least one of these applications
Okay,
every
thank you.
time.
And you guys heard the whole speech about the commissioners and all that. You know, that's the next step, so. Well, they'll have a meeting and they'll go through our tonight's applications and look at our recommendations, and they'll vote on it. And once they say yes, then officially you have the documentation to go to the next level, which is presumably building permits, if you've already gone through zoning and whatever, so. Okay? Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we get all this junk out of there. It's oak. Okay. Next project is HARB 2013-26, 424 Louella Avenue. Repair or demolition of an existing chimney that has been found to be structurally deficient by the owner's contractor. You here to present?
I don't really have much to represent, but I'm one of the homeowners.
Here.
Since I have a strong accent, I thought I'd just write out a summary of what I want to say. It'll be easier.
Do you want to use this too? We'll be asking questions, so why don't you use this? Thank you.
Thank you.
Just some background, this was a project that we looked at a while
couple of
back.
years
That was
ago.
a carriage house.
Yeah.
That's a substantial carriage house. Its orientation is lengthwise, the short end facing the street.
Yeah.
And they came in to do some deck work, terrace work.
Well, we expanded the back of the garage so that the cars can
Right.
actually, it was a carriage house, so, it was a short to park contemporary
Remember that one?
cars.
Oh, It was a
so
brick
it's
one.
decked out.
yeah.
And we added some steps on the side so that we will have a little more horizontal spread to the house.
You're right next to that, it was a carriage house for that really
The
beautiful
Carl
clay
Estate,
tiled roof.
Yes, yeah, the mansion at the
House right on
corner
the-
of,
right on the corner. Right, right,
Pembroke
right.
and the Louella. Basically, you probably have some photos of it.
That's perfect. That's great.
Yeah, that's really listing.
These two are the ones at the back that's a problem, the flues.
Ma'am, can you use that microphone?
These two photos are the chimney, the photos of the chimney that's leaning. The flues on the top are leaning, and the right here, this side is leaning even more than this one. Both of them are leaning, but this one is leaning by 20 degree toward the back of the roof side of it. And I had a chimney inspection done, and basically, I don't know if you have a copy of it. I provided the copy to the office. Basically, the guy suggested we tear it down, but I wasn't sure if that's the way to go. So I did ask around, and I got like 5 different, 4 or 5 different masonry contractors and my architect who worked on the other project. It was really the architect who took the finer walkthrough for the previous project that you've reviewed up in the completion, and he looked at the chimney and he basically told me that we'll have to have somebody, a mason, to come and have a look at it, because that's how all things started. And we got the chimney inspection done, and we basically looked at different options, but just preserving what we have, it doesn't seem to be an option, at least from what I talked to these people. One guy, this DJ Cross, this guy came and with the notion that he might be able to do, cast in place lining for the chimney. He looked at it, he decided that wasn't going to work for this particular chimney flues. Basically, what we have inside the house is one of the chimneys services one fireplace. The other flue it's not in use. I assume that that's the more leaning one that was out of use a long time ago, but we don't know. The guy basically said that didn't seem like an option. So 3 of the masons who came out suggested basically, if we want to keep the shape the way it is, cut the top part of the flue down to maybe the second bend from the bottom, and use the existing cap on top of it. This way, we won't be able to use the fireplace as a fireplace, but it will keep more or less the shape of what we have. Another alternative that we, at least one of these guys suggested was, basically rebuilding the chimney to the shape similar to what we have. These are the front entrance side. There's one chimney on the front, and this side here, this one here is main entrance. The door is front entrance door is here, and this is the front chimney. So the suggestion was we basically remove these flues and build the chimney to the shape to match what we have in the front. Before we do anything, we will consult an engineer just to see if we can preserve what we have within a reasonable cost and that stuff. But I wanted to get some sense about how the HARB would view the situation. We don't have one solution in particular in mind, but these 2 options were presented to us as possibilities in terms of solutions. And for us, the immediate need is really because we were told that these are structurally unsafe, and that behind that, under the roof, there are 2 gables, which are the windows for 2 of my kids' bedrooms. And I did ask a guy how long, can we wait or this and that, but basically the chimney inspector said, nobody can say at this point. The sooner we do something, the better.
Once they start leaning, it's not a good idea to wait around.
Well, the thing was, when
Yeah.
we bought the
Especially
house,
that bad.
when we bought the house around 2006, we signed the contract in July 2006. The previous owners who still lives on Orchard Way claimed, the inspector kind of wrote that the chimney was leaning. And the response that they gave us was they had stabilized, they gave us an article. There was a write-up on the house after Peter Archer finished the renovation around 2005 and got an award for the renovation. Actually, it's really an award, but for
remember
that
that.
one particular
we've seen those.
award, there
Yeah, I
was
remember
a
that.
write-up on a magazine, an architectural magazine,
Right.
and the magazine stated that the structure was stabilized. The chimney is leaning, and the house itself has some, structural. It's I think 7-degree off or something like that. But it was written there in the published article that the structure was stabilized and chimney was stabilized. When the owners presented that, we really didn't feel that we could question their integrity and bring in another chimney inspector. It didn't occur to us, basically, that somebody in that situation would not be straightforward and completely honest about the situation. So we just took their words for it and went around. But I just noticed that we got the chimney cleaned like a month ago. I mean, for a while, we've noticed some stuff, so we did ask around. But this I just picked up, like, it's been like a month since we had the chimney cleaned, but those fell off, basically, the dampers. So, that's the situation we're in.
The whole thing
So
is
just for the safety
asphyxiating.
reasons, we really need to.
Well, these are amazing chimneys. I mean, they don't make them like this anymore,
Well,
obviously.
I did talk to these guys, and basically, the guy who came in for cast-in-place ideas, he said that once you put that in, the chimney won't be a chimney anymore, functioning chimney anymore, because the flue pipes are so narrow that once you put the lining in, it won't function as a fireplace chimney, basically.
I like the idea of taking it down to that second ring
Yeah, I
and
do
moving the caps down, because then you still kind of have that same effect, but you've
Exactly.
gotten rid of the danger.
That's what I'm an artist, actually, and I was the one, actually, who did the whole design for that last round of renovation that Win Hoffman has,
terrific.
that completed. Just looking at it, basically, these 4 different chimney masons tell me that they can't rebuild what's there to the code and to the functioning level. So if we want to keep the look of it, the best alternative is really cutting down to a reasonable level and use the existing cap to
Right.
I mean,
take over.
Do you know
I'm
what the
personally-
caps are? Are they stone? Are they metal?
These are copper, I believe. When we bought the house, the inspector noted that the chimneys were missing the caps. So the caps were put in at that time, but these are copper caps, I believe.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, personally, I really like to see, I mean, that's really an architectural feature of that place. And
Yeah, but
it
if
stands
you look
out.
at
I mean,
this-
it's a beautiful, beautiful feature. And providing that the entire structure below those chimneys, I mean, you seem to be alluding that the foundation of this thing might not be good?
No, it
that's
was
okay.
the chimney inspector looked at under the crawl space. He went in and looked around the base of the chimney. Since this is a carriage house, it doesn't have a basement. And the foundation of I assume that crawl space, under the crawl space, right now, I think when the Riley's, the previous owners renovated the house, they went in and kind of fortified the foundation
Okay.
and that stuff. So it looks like a cement floor, but underneath, I believe it's still stone foundation, like the other part, like in the garage, the garage, when we dug up that back portion, the foundation was stacks of stones. And I assume that under the cement that we see near the chimney, that's still probably the stone foundations. So the inspector looked around and pointed out to me that there were some signs of fortification. Basically, there were some. I think the Rileys might have meant it as a stabilization. When they said stabilization, that might be what they might have meant. I don't know. But he said he didn't see any cracks. There was no settlement. The report itself notes at the bottom there. As far as the structure itself at the basement goes, it doesn't look like it's sagging or cracking or anything like that. But since it's such an I guess unusual structure that this inspector has never seen before, he wasn't sure whether the footer was there or not. But that's neither here nor there as far as I'm concerned. The foundation around there seems to be solid. So I'm just assuming that what's falling out is really the lining part of the chimney, and at least that's what these people have been telling me, and that seems to make sense.
And even if they had to do the balloon thing on the inside for the lining, it requires the chimney itself to be structurally strong,
Sound,
because otherwise
yeah.
you just blow the whole thing out, because
That's
there's
right,
nothing to
that's right,
support it.
that's right.
One option, which might be really nice, really good, and you've already said something about that here, just make this non-functional and rebuild those, the chimneys as they are, but without a lining. And it'll be cheaper.
The guy,
You can,
at least
I can get you a
no, no.
26-year-old kid that does this.
no. A
That's
couple
not-
of guys told me that the bricks that they use there are not commonly found kind. So if you're going to actually match the bricks, there might have some issues there too. And also, I don't know. The guy said, I think I put the footnote somewhere in terms of price. If we were to go with this one, this design, they're talking about $10,000 just to add this not including the demolition part. Demolition part, they're talking about just to take these flue pipes down to the base level. They're talking about $15,000.
How much?
$15,000.
Just take it
To
down?
demolish? Really?
Yes.
What?
Because the roof is a
Really?
tile roof,
Yeah.
and it's very highly pitched. So at least according to a couple of the guys who came to look at, a couple of the guys give me an estimate. That's a spec'd out. They just were too much concerned about insurance issues.
Right.
The other guys basically told me they would have to build a platform, not just a scaffolding, but put a
Platform around it.
plywood platform so that they would protect the tile roof and the pitches so that their workers, were 4 or 5 people at the same time, can go up there without breaking the tiles or whatever. So, if you have any other suggestions, we are very open to it. But after I spoke with all these people, these are pretty much the 2 options that we came down to. Whatever we do, we're going to hire an engineer, structural engineer, and have a look at the situation. And if we can salvage what we have as is, we would make every effort to do it. But we, as you earlier in the earlier session, you mentioned it's a house where we still live in. The house is still revolving. So we do have to make some accommodations for the living part of it.
Did they give you a quote for actually rebuilding those chimneys?
No,
No?
none of
Just a
the 5
demo.
guys came out would even consider rebuilding those. The guy said, one of the guys said that's going to be prohibitive in terms of cost. And the ballpark price that I got, $10,000, just to make it look like this one, was one guy. The other 2 guys didn't want to even get into it at all. So
Well, I think
I
we
don't-
if
have,
you
I
have a
don't
couple
agree
of
with that.
better masons
Yeah, I
that
got-
you
I got
can
a guy.
recommend.
I got
a guy.
I got 3 chimneys that are much more evolved that I'd built. And I forgot the price, but it wasn't prohibitive.
Okay, if you can get me a couple of names, I'm willing to, explore whatever possibilities.
They just don't want to touch it, that's all you're hearing.
Well, here are the choices I see. You take it apart, you rebuild it so they work. Most expensive option. Okay? That's like the pinnacle. Everybody wants to see that. You want to see that, but whatever. Next level, take it down, as John said, down to that ring. I think that's a great thing. This is you can't see this from the street,
No, it's
but it is absolutely a part of the fabric of this house and this carriage house. It's just so important to try to maintain whatever you can of that. To take it down and make it look like the other chimney is just not even something I would consider. It's a waste of
Right,
money,
right.
and it doesn't do anything to the heart of the house. But I think bringing it down does. Now, I don't know whether these are so tall because they kept adding to them because they had draft problems, or whether, when this was built, there was not a chimney code about, distance and height. They just did what worked, and if it didn't work, they fixed it. They did something else. So I'm wondering if you brought it down to the ring, if it's still within code.
That's a good question.
Who knows? you know, you have to get up there and do your calculations and measure it.
Well, that's
There's
why I
also a
think
draw
it's-
problem, because the higher you go, sometimes, you know, it's a better draw than a lower draw. Sometimes it's worse, because you got a big cold column of air coming down.
Actually, one of the I'm sorry to interrupt
Yeah.
you. One of the contractors had that specific question. That's why I actually came to Mr. Daly to ask that particular question. He did ask about the code. There, you know, he works with the national code. This was a guy from Bucks County, and he works with the national code, but he specifically wanted to know what Radnor Township's code is, because the chimney is right in front of one of the small gables. And if you look at the
Right.
pitch of the roof, the reason why you don't see these pipes from the front is that it might not be high enough by contemporary
to clear the
code
peak.
standards. So basically, the guy said, even if we rebuild this, it won't be functional. So we'll be, you know, spending a fortune just for the look of it. B, it may not meet the code. So if it doesn't meet the code, you can't rebuild it, obviously, right?
Well, that's the first thing you have to do, is say, what is the, you know, where does this thing, you know, where does it have to be for code? And is it higher than that or lower than that?
Well, that's why I came to the township, and we
Yeah,
didn't
but
have
you know,
the
if you make
answer.
it-
Well, you got to get up there and do you can't just look from this and say, yeah, that's right. You know, there's a whole thing about distance and height, so.
But I was told, at least by the mason, that there's a code that requires from the distance between the top of the chimney to whatever next, you know, structure, and the height of the chimney itself is defined by the code, I guess.
Yeah.
So, you know, he wanted me, he said he would come, but since he's from Bucks County, I offered to come here and check it out, and if there was any written, you know, documentation, I told him I would email it.
Or maybe
to
if
him.
you just consider making it non-functional and just decorative, a lot of those things may not apply, right? Right, and that'll solve that problem.
Does it lead to a decorative fireplace opening now that
There-
is primary to one of your rooms, or is it?
No, this in the, what do you call it?
It's
The
right here.
kitchen dining room. It's a dining room, really. The kitchen and dining room is open, open space, and the fireplace. This is a kind of what do you call it? A long kitchen, and there's open space, and there is a dining area. The fireplace is angled this way. Right now, it's a gas log fireplace.
Okay.
It was, I mean, at some point they've.
But that's a vented fireplace.
It's a vented
So
fireplace.
you need a flue.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Operating.
you know, at this point, the flue is open
Yes.
and works, although it's dropping all these debris. But if we cap it, I assume that we can't use it as a, you know, I don't know what the code is, but even as a gas log, I don't think we'll be able to use it as a vented one. I'll check with the gas log, whatever company, and making sure that that's to the code. I mean, we certainly, you know, would like to keep the vented one if we can, but, you know.
Well, from our standpoint, we would love to see you keep whatever you can of what's there.
Right.
But that's what
And however you decide to use it internally or not is up to you and your budget, and, you know, obviously, if you can bring it down and it's the code and you could still get a flue to work and you can use your fireplace, it's a win-win-win-win, other than building the thing right back the way it was today. So I think we're probably going to agree that to take it down and make it into a big box is not something we'd like to see.
Okay.
I don't think you,
Not that we wouldn't approve it.
No, not that I
It's just that something we
particularly
wouldn't like
want
to
it,
see.
But,
Right.
you know, that seems to
Thank
be
you.
the only possibility to make the existing fireplace work as a fireplace. If we're going to build rebuild the fireplace as a functioning
Oh, I
fireplace,
see what you're
this
saying.
seems to
I
be
see
the
what you're
only
saying.
option.
well,
At
we
least
we have guys. We're going to hook you up with somebody who can do this.
And
all
Knock it
right.
out in a weekend.
Yeah, seriously, if you can give me a few names, I'll be happy to, you know,
Yeah.
it's just that safety issues involved, so we have to get this one reserved as soon as we,
This is old timer, old school type of construction, which these new guys it's too much work, too much thinking. There are guys around, and
Yeah.
you've probably talked to a few that may just don't want to do it because they're too busy or whatever, but, I don't know, you may find that everybody's going to be too much or whatever, but I think we've got some resources
That'd
that
be
might help.
great. We're very much open.
And then in the end, and we're not voting on this, I don't think, right?
No.
It's like a
think so.
sketch
It's a
plan.
discussion.
No, wait a minute. Is there a real application here?
It's in there. It's on the,
But
Yeah.
there's options.
It's a real
so-
application. We got to
well,
do
no,
something with
there's
it.
no application.
Yes, it is.
Is there?
It's right in front of you.
But-
We have to
but-
we have to vote on something.
Well, can we vote to say if there's 3 options, here's the preferable versus, can we prioritize the options?
Oh, I know what we could do. We could vote on that we approve of the chimney demolition or repair.
Partial.
Partial, yeah, partial.
And a question I had was, as Cam was describing it, and I hope I'm getting it, it sounds like you got cost estimates for rebuilding everything, which is a lot, as is, rebuilding brand new, rectangular, and capping halfway. I get all those things. I think Cam was also saying, even if you had to demolish the circular portions down to the, that cap, that would still be nice to keep the base. Is that kind of what you're
Well,
saying?
she was saying down to this ring.
Right.
If you
Yeah.
look at
Yeah,
the photo
exactly.
here.
Yeah, down
there
to the
are
ring.
So
two
it'd be
rings
nice
at
to have the mass.
That's
and
what I
then-
guess
and
I'm
then
saying.
clearly see the 2 stacks.
Right.
Yes.
For
As-
whatever length you
as
can
small as they
possibly
are.
have.
Do
The,
maybe a foot or two
Yeah, so,
and cap it.
but have
Well-
you got that estimate also?
With at least one guy suggested, if you look at the photo there, at the base of the flues, there are 2 bends. So one guy basically said he wasn't sure if he could keep the second bends, but he would try. But he was pretty sure that he can keep the first
Okay.
bottom bend.
And so that's,
So depending on how many bricks that he can salvage from demolition, the way they described it, at least some of these, when they demolish the chimney, they can't just chop it off
No,
and
you're-
demolish it. They have to take one brick
At a
out
time.
at a time. That's why it's so labor intensive and so expensive. So what the guy said is if they can salvage enough bricks from that actions, they could even build up a little more in a safe way, but they couldn't guarantee
would it be,
because
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Would it be fair, I'd like to hear what everyone thinks here, if, since I think it's true what Cam is saying, that as much as you can repair versus replace, which is what you're sounding like you're doing, but if you can only keep the base, whatever you're going to call that base, before it becomes 2 circular flues, if you can keep the base
Yeah.
down, and even if you had to rebuild in new brick or old new brick, whatever level of tinier, I would love hearing that, because it sounds like the majority of the base is retained. So I would be I would be more inclined to say, great, even if you have to replace it with new brick, it still has that character. That feature is so important that's great to me too.
But one thing I wonder is does the size of the newer brick differ from what's there? And,
But it won't be there anymore. I think.
no, I know,
Oh, okay.
yeah. But I mean, well,
Well, what I meant was the bricks of the circular, the portion will not be there any
Right.
longer, so building on top of the majority, I can't think what the right word is,
these
but
bricks are not even rectangular bricks.
Oh, by the way, that lower base portion that Beverly is just talking about, is that generally okay? It's just the base, my understanding is it's the circular pieces that are really in bad shape. Am I correct on that? Yes or no?
At least what 2 of the masons said is that this bottom part of the chimney, base part is okay.
Okay,
Good.
okay.
There might be some places they may have to go in and fill in, but we had it repointed, I don't know, 2007, 8, about that time. So overall condition of that part is reasonable.
And that's-
Structurally, it's not, an issue. The flue pipes are issue because the pipes are leaning. And just because this is probably 3 or 4 feet high minimum, so what they're proposing to do is just cut it down to the base level so that it won't, flop
Right.
the other way. But so sort of kind of a aesthetic, from an aesthetic point of view, if we could keep up to the second bend at the bottom, if we kept the cap on it, that would still look like a chimney.
Yes.
Right,
yes.
That'd be a great
So-
result.
It would be a very good result.
That's right.
Yes.
And whatever that they can salvage from the demolition
Right.
of
Yes.
the part,
Right.
they may try
Right.
to add another band
Right.
or, fix if there is an
Right.
issue inside the lining
And-
part.
and
But
I-
then you probably won't be able to use that as a chimney.
We won't be
You
able to
understand
use
that?
it as a fireplace. I think I noted it
Right.
that it will be, fireplace will be either just a purely decorative or we'll have to do vent-free
vent.
gas log.
Mm-hmm.
Because the gas is already there, it'll be a matter of changing
Right.
the gas
Okay.
log
All right.
situation.
Well, how's this for a motion? That we agree to a partial demolition of the 2 chimneys down to the base and
And use-
restoration and reuse of the cap
as possible,
above the base.
yes,
Restoration and reuse of the cap,
if possible.
if possible.
Because if it doesn't, I still love that versus,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd be able to support that. There's just, it just sounds like there's too much that we don't know here on the safety issues, on the cost issues of doing this. I think the only proposal we could make tonight is, if we're going to give a blessing to this, is that they're allowed to demolish it, repair it, or replace it.
the what, like, we're just.
The whole thing, if that's what's necessary.
It sounds like,
If the professionals that she chooses to hire give her advice that that has to come down
but she,
to the base,
up to the base.
then I would approve that.
But I think that's what we're saying, keep the base.
No, all the way down, not just the
Oh,
top
okay,
flues.
but I
Because
think
if
she-
if the engineer says that's what has to happen,
Yeah, that's
what-
right.
Well, that's going to rule.
That's right.
Structural code, that all rules, and then whatever we want
Yeah, I mean, the code might
is on
prohibit
top of that.
But
Right.
if they do say it's structurally,
disclaimer that says is subject to structural analysis of the existing. That covers all of, well, what I'm saying is, here's what we would like to see from a HARB standpoint. And you subject that to any kind of structural analysis that's
Exactly.
performed. And that would cover,
Well,
they'd
if-
come back and say, well, we really can't do it that way because of whatever.
Well, the application is
Right,
for
for
chimney
us-
demolition or repair.
Right.
That's the application.
Right.
So if
Right.
if the answer, if the result is something else, you'd have to come back here. If we go with the proposal that John made.
Right.
And I thought that's why we were trying to avoid.
All right, so we have recommendations that we've said that we'd like to see,
Right.
but we're not going to vote based on that. We're just saying that's, and I think you agree with all those things. So whatever you can do to that end. Now, we have to vote to say, like you say, it's either demolish or repair. And I don't know what else we can add to that other
I
than,
don't think so. I don't think we need to add anything to that.
if we can say repair
if,
based on structural okays and code,
yes.
but if she has to demolish it, she technically has to come back.
Why? She's getting permission right now. She's
If
getting our
we
blessing.
only
But
said
one or the
repair,
other.
though,
Well,
you know what I mean?
you can make that proposal and we'll vote on it. I would make another proposal on demolition or repair. Now we can
So
vote on
as
that.
is.
Yeah, so we can have 2 proposals, we can vote on them.
Are we, it
But I think
sounds,
the risk is that she's gonna have to come back.
is there any way that we would say preference in everyone's,
Actually, you know what this should have been? Instead of an application being submitted,
that's what I'm
this should have
thinking.
been new business. Because what we're really
That's
doing
what
at
I'm-
this point is giving advice.
That's what I'm thinking.
And you're right about what's dictating what's got to be done is what the engineers come up with. And at that point, then they should have come back at that point in the future and said, okay, here's what we're going to finally do, based on what we know. Right now, this is all preliminary stuff. And we can give them,
That's a good
Yeah.
point, because we
Yeah,
have
but
people that you need to
yes.
talk to still, that we're going to offer up.
And
You don't
then-
have all your information.
Well, I provided all the information that I have.
I know, but
I've
you don't have
spoken
enough
with
information to say, I'm going to do
different
this.
contractors, I mean,
right?
masonry contractors, and a chimney inspector inspected the chimney and gave a recommendation, which basically said that demolish the up to the base point of the
Right.
the flue.
If
Yeah.
you
And it sounds like
feel-
that might be doable, but we just don't know that yet,
Yeah.
to save the base. From
Well,
what you're
did it
saying,
sound
sounds
like, I'm confused. It sounds like you did get an estimate for keeping the base and it was doable?
Yeah, what's the Dave Schibel, masonry?
Okay.
This guy
Don't need
came
to.
out, looked at it, and I told him, I won't hold him down to the dollars, but if he could give a ballpark numbers,
Mm-hmm.
that's where he put in like a $15,000 to demolish to the base of the chimney.
see,
I mean,
Kevin
the
should have
flue.
given us, for new business rather than going through all of this.
Can I offer
Quite
some
frankly.
suggestions? First thing is, and I'm really out on a limb here. If you guys say you can't take it down till your guys look at it, come back later, this thing falls, there's some issues. Because this homeowner is here today for demolition to make this safe. Everyone that has worked in the field knows as you peel these things down, you do not always know what you're going to find. You may get to that square part and find out that all those liners and all that stuff in there is gone. It's eaten away by the gas logs that shouldn't be in here, which we all know shouldn't be in. So all that lining gets done. If at that point that deems or needs to be taken down, that is a structural and a code issue. That's not a HARB issue. So I think what's in front of you tonight is exactly what should be voted on. And it is a structural and a code issue for the chimney to be demolished or repaired as best can be. This is just a look or a courtesy for you tonight. If this would have come in tomorrow, in all honesty, Kevin and I talked about this, we would have issued the demolition permit tomorrow without you arguing about this tonight. We're discussing it. So that's the only reason why this was brought up in here tonight, was for this issue, to kind of give you a heads up that this is what is going to happen. So I kind of go with
Then it's
yours,
clear.
but kind of go with, so that
We either say yes or no to chimney demolition or repair, period.
with,
And then we
with the-
have-
with the caveat that you'd like to see if it's code and if it's cost effective and if it can be done, to save or put back or repair as much as you can.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And that's it,
That's all
And
it
she
is.
has heard that.
That's it.
okay?
You've heard that.
Thank you.
Okay.
So that's the motion. Correct?
I can't make it, you guys do.
Yeah.
I was just looking over at it.
Motion would be
I wasn't
to,
asking. Okay, go.
is to,
To approve
Paul-
chimney demolition or repair.
yeah,
Depending,
as-
at-
to approve chimney
So to-
demolition or repair as feasible.
right, because you'll find out when you find out.
Well, if this is any assurance to you, I'll do my best to keep the look of the
Exactly.
house. I love the house. I mean, when we bought the house, it was much more than what we've budgeted to buy a house, but we bought it because we fell in love with it.
All right, I
And
make a,
we're
mo-
not gonna endanger the
course, of
beauty
course.
of the house just to save a little money. And it will be, I mean, big money difference never,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
That makes sense.
so I'd like to make a motion, recommend approval of a COA to demolish or repair the chimney.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0.
Good.
All right, took a long time to do that. But there are procedural things that we have to do, and so sorry about that, but
Yeah, we just didn't know how to go about this. That's why I came to Mr.
It's a
Deli and Mr.
gray area.
Kevin. It's-
well, I think the timing worked out because, you know, it's eminent that you needed to have something done. We had a meeting, let's do it, and let's talk about it. And you're on board with doing the same things we want to do. So, you know,
And if you do want further,
We will come back if we have to change the plan or something.
But plus,
even other people who do.
yeah, exactly.
Or since you mentioned that there are names that you can.
Yes.
we'll help you with that. All right, so we're not going to the Board of Commissioners for her, right? We gotta do that? I know, but I mean, she's got an issue she has to get done.
I'm sorry. It goes on the technicality on yours and as a code issue. She has the approval to do this with a demolition permit tomorrow morning from a licensed reputable contractor. If you apply tomorrow morning for a demolition permit and your contractor is licensed, we will issue that permit. The technical portion of this will go to the board saying that you approved it, but we've already approved it also.
Okay,
No, I have to hire a contractor first, so, but,
all right, so,
if you can give me a few names.
well, just hang on for a couple of minutes, we'll do this. I think we are, we didn't have any old business other than this, so, and there's no public left, correct? So we can adjourn? Motion to adjourn? No? We do? Oh. I missed that, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's in old business. Okay, 229 West Wayne Avenue. Application is appearing in front of the Design Review Board, the DRB. In accordance with HARB ordinance, one or more HARB members can participate in those proceedings. And if you remember, Aldeberger Florist, in the HARB district, commercial property. At that time, they were going to save some of the building, take some of it down, build something new on top of it, around it, whatever. We determined, as I recall, that the only historic significance of that site was that it has always been a commercial site. Because the original building had burned down, they had built this, they had done whatever, there were greenhouses, there was a mash of everything, and nothing was of the age of the original fabric there at that time when we looked at it. So we looked at it as the significance was it was a commercial site forever. It's always been that way. And then they went ahead. And what happened now is that as they started taking things apart, it all sort of fell apart. So now it's all down to slab level. And once you start building something new like that and it's commercial, it goes to the Design Review Board. So we've been asked to determine whether we should send somebody there as just to offer advice or any kind of input at that meeting, based on it's now going to be a new building in a sense.
I make a motion that Cam attend the meeting.
Thank you. Now, from our standpoint, that's definitely in our venue, right? If it's a commercial in the HARB district, we should have that.
Well,
They're doing something
I don't-
different than what we had approved.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't know, I don't personally know what they're doing. We looked at it from a commercial site level, but we also looked at it at the new construction they were doing from our level, which we approved.
right.
Now, unless that's been appreciably changed, I mean, I don't know what they're doing.
I'm
So-
not sure either, but I guess one of my questions, I think what we're saying is, I think in our ordinances, both their ordinance and ours, it says, I don't know if it says could or should, one of these projects overlap, a design review board project that is also in the HARB district, a member of the HARB, one or more members of the HARB shall be present. I don't think we have voting, that's not what we do, that's not what we're looking to see, I think. We're just there to hear it, perhaps offer comments, and let them decide. I mean, that's my understanding of it. Is that everyone else's understanding?
The one word there is may be present.
Right,
not shall
Not
be
shall.
present.
okay.
May be
That's a
present.
And so
different- yeah.
we're just there to offer comments if we choose, but we just want to be there and hear what's happening, and if they have questions of our review, we'll answer.
I'm going to say yes, but since you've already had the venue that the building is not contributing and there's nothing there, or if you now go and start to present a lot of things, is that going to create an issue? So you've kind of already stated your facts at the last meeting when this went to HARB. Basically, there's no increase in footprint other than what was, they squared the building off with whatever nonsense on the sides, got rid of both ends, those growths on both ends and all that. So they're going to go back up with the building, same location, the footers, and the, matter of fact, the floor is still there, just in 2x walls now, something they can insulate and make a legitimate code-compliant building and put it back. It's kind of more of a technicality. In
this case,
the big
yes.
scheme of things, I don't know that we've ever had any members present for commercial properties.
No, I
That's
know.
just.
We never have.
I don't
Yeah,
think
we never
so.
have. And the director and I are discussing that fact. Because when HARB was started, it was for residents, for residential areas and residential buildings.
It was.
That's why.
But when Louella Court became Louella,
But you've never commented on any storefront going up Louella.
but were we ever given a chance?
Again, it's awnings and storefronts.
Right.
It's not historical. I mean,
Well, I would.
because they have to, well, what are you going to make them put? You're
No,
going to
no,
make them
no,
put wood
no, no.
doors and wood windows
I'm not
back in there?
saying.
You
no,
can't do that by code.
No, what I'm saying is that whatever choices are made for current day commercial storefront facades, the same feeling would be for the overall historic character of that, which was once upon a time commercial also, as part of the district. I don't, again, it's the same kind of comments we'd say tonight, which is, oh, that's in keeping with the overall. I mean, I think that's the kind of comments that would be useful if they want to hear them. And I kind of think that's what we want to offer, is preserving the overall character.
Again, commercial, HARB and commercial have never touched. This just opens up just a lot of issues that potentially could come for any buildings that are commercial within those districts. It's nice to comment and it's nice to be there,
guess-
but what can you really do at the end of this? You can't make them do anything.
No, we can't.
You can't even offer. One of the suggestions, even with having them go to DRB, is what can DRB actually say about the building? It's on the same footprint, it's the same height. They can't comment on materials. They can't comment on the roof. They can't comment on, so all DRB can do is basically come up with a color or a facade. DRB was really set up for trying to maintain a basic look and keep advertising and signage and things the same. So even going to DRB for the general building, what are they going to say? We don't like stucco? They even though they make that comment, they can't control it or say anything about it.
Their
You
only
know, I-
control is really signage.
Pretty much
In-
correct.
in their code.
Within their privy.
Yeah.
And that's why I
what's your
struggled,
control?
Kevin and I
Just
struggled with
signage.
whether this should.
Oh, really?
And again,
Yeah.
what are you as HARB board going to say about whatever it is? I mean, you're going to say the windows don't match the building, the roof line doesn't match. Well, there isn't. And the fact that you've already said that it's really not contributing, you really weren't concerned with it, to go to another venue and voice an opinion would kind of contradict what you said before at the meeting. So Kevin and I had struggled about this. I think Kevin did this more, Mr. Kachansky did this more as a courtesy, kind of let everybody know what was going on. Because there is that, the ordinances are terrible. That gray area where it mixes things, it just comes into play.
No, I hear that.
And this is, it's actually a full demolition, technically. So,
Yeah,
so
that's
it's different than what we approved, which was sort of do what you want with this building. Now there's no building.
Okay?
So in a sense, we've crossed that line, so we probably, you know, I mean, you could almost
gonna have
argue
them put
that it
a-
should come back to us, but.
You want to have them put a log cabin up there or what? Well, I'm just trying to
I'm just
figure
talking
out
it
what,
through.
yeah, but I'm trying to figure out what you want
Log cabin.
and not hold a project up and run a guy back in here.
I know.
within reality, he's got to build it to code, so it's going to have to be a pretty good new log cabin with a lot of stuff.
I guess what Cam might be somewhat, I'm not saying we want this, is it didn't comply with what was recommended originally. But
As with-
again, I
As with
guess.
most buildings, once you start taking, and we're going to have it at Louella, on 29 Louella, once you start taking the roof and the second floor off, you got the first floor off and repairing the best part of 3/4 of the basement and the foundation walls. How much of the house do you really think is going to stay? When you told Cass that he could remove 2.5 or possibly 3 walls, how much was really going to be left of that last of 6-inch cinder block filled wall, with the holes in it? How do you marry that new for building compliance and code compliance for insulation and leaving one section of wall? It's, yes.
I know,
You
I know.
try your best, but sometimes
I know.
things just aren't worth saving and you got to take it
No,
down.
I hear you.
I think the only reason to go to the meeting would be to offer some suggestions as to, I don't think that we are saying that we want to hold up the project or anything like that, but if there are any suggestions, that might be helpful, it's almost more of an educational thing to whomever is building it. I don't think that we obviously don't have any purview over what will be built. It's just really, I think, a question of giving any suggestions that might help the building fit into the historic district. But, so to me, it seems that if we go, it would just be to offer any kind of suggestion and nothing more than that. I mean,
This might be a hard example in the sense, like you said, there's nothing left. I guess more procedurally, next time around with a different building that has more building, it might be nice to be able to say, oh, well, in this period, originally, yes, it would have had such and such picture window for a commercial window.
These meetings are open to the public, the design review board, and anyone
Anybody
can come
can
and
go.
give their comments?
Yes.
All right, so if anyone in the board wants to go
Yeah.
and give their comments?
I guess that's
can do that.
just an example of, offering
I mean, that's
whatever
the
we can.
offering.
Right,
That's all it is.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
we
what
don't,
we're doing
we
is-
don't have a vote on that board.
No,
so.
but
No.
all we're supposed to do is, I guess, vote that we want to do it or not do it, right?
Do we have?
No, you don't even have to,
don't have
We're
to
just
vote.
talking
you
about
can just
it?
say that,
Just
yeah,
discuss it.
just more discussion.
Discussion
and-
point.
Well,
Okay.
I think if anyone would like to go,
Yes.
Here.
Can since it's, sounds like it's something within the historic district, can the, either code department or the HARB kind of require the builder to kind of blend in the look of late 19th, early 20th century buildings? The reason why I'm saying it is before we moved here, I lived in Indiana, just outside Indianapolis, which it was a small town just around on the north side of Indianapolis. They really didn't have much of historical characters to it, but as it incorporated, outer town, sort of in unincorporated area, they built in rather kind of strict rules about how to build a village-type subdivisions. It was just the whole incorporated area, newly incorporated area, actually in the last 10, 15 years are twice bigger than the original size of the city itself. But when they built it, a couple of developers came to the township and basically to the city and kind of brought up a new village plan, basically, like a late 19th century. That would be similar to downtown Wayne, basically. They would build mix-in stores along with the residential areas. They would put like sidewalks and that stuff. And in the process, in the storefront, they would put larger glass panels, but the sort of outer exterior of the building itself kind of blends in as a late 19th century, early 20th century, Indiana towns, basically. It seems to me that that range of, enforcement that the code department or township should have if it's happening within the historic district. Just for the purpose of maintaining the look of the neighborhood the way it is.
Thank you.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah. All right, so I still have to go? Or do you all want to go?
I mean,
Well, it's public
I
comment.
think anyone
You could
that wants
for
to go
public
should go.
comment.
Right, okay.
Go as an individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think it's probably, a start. After we're done, I've got the DRB submission here, and I can show you what we have so far. And I have one other thing to talk to you about, too. But I think that's it, right? Okay, I make a motion to adjourn. Okay, we're adjourned.